The house was built in 1875 by Sylvester Pierce. It's got 4 floors, 6,661 square feet. There's 21 rooms. There's 2 water cisterns, 2 parlors, 2 pantries, an ice chest, 4 fireplaces, all original to the house, a tower. So Mr. Pierce, he started working at the SK Pierce factory across the street. It's now Standard Chair. He started working there when he was 14, and he worked his way right up to owning it. It is still a chair factory to this day. There is a tunnel that goes from there to here. It's caved in right now. I wish it was open. We'd all be exploring it. But it is caved in. Somebody wanted town sewer and water. He built the house for his wife, Susan, his first wife. Sadly, she passed away 2 weeks after it was finished in this room. He married his second wife, Susan, and he put her in here. And his room was across the way over there. And then when he passed, it went to his daughter, his second wife, Ellen. And then when she died, it went to the 3 boys, Stuart, Edward, and Frank. And then eventually they started passing away. And then Edward owned it for a while, lost the factory across the street, couldn't keep up the house. So he actually opened up this house as a boarding house. And that's why there's numbers on all of the doors. And then he sold it to J. Stemmerman in 1965. And he let Edward stay here, but Edward had to be the caretaker of the house at that time. So Edward went from a prominent man to having nothing to being the caretaker of this home. And then J. Stemmerman had it, and he passed away and gave it to his daughter Jane, who wanted nothing to do with it. She lived in Florida. She didn't want anything to do with the house. So she hired an auctioneer to come in, auction off stuff. He took a lot of stuff that he wasn't supposed to. And then the house was empty for 20 years. Mark Vo owned it for 10 years, got divorced, and sold it to Ed and Lil in 2008. Ed and Lil are the owners before the one that has it now. And then Rob and Allison bought it sight unseen. Yeah, I knocked on the door and we were friends after that.
The name is Lee Wolloff, W-O-L-L-O-F-F. Well, I'm a resident of Gardner. I've been in Gardner since 2004 now. And the relationship is one of having answered their call over Facebook to hire people to do tours in the house. I think I'm the only guy that's doing it now full time. So
Heather, Heather, DiPadua, D-I-P-A-D-U-A. I am a tour guide, and I have been here for almost 3 years now since we opened to the public. I grew up in the area, so I heard all the local legends about this place on top of when I was growing up. That's when everybody started filming here for TV. So I was watching it on TV for many years too.
Jessica, Jessica, Hunt, Hunt. My initial introduction was when I did a tour. I had Marion do the tour with me, and I knew her before that from a previous job. And then one evening I was here during a private investigation, and a tour was booked at the same time. And she said, "You take this tour, I'll take that tour." And then right afterwards it was like, "Do you want to be a tour guide?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Crystal Kaiser, Krystal Kaiser. I first came to the SK Pierce to do a ghost hunt. From there, I have been coming back, and then I got hired as a tour guide. And since then, I've been here since day one, since we opened for the public.
Eno Sari, April 9th, 1963. Eno Sari burnt to death in the room over there. He was an auto mechanic. He was a World War II vet. He was from Finland. He was working on cars. He came home from work, spilled accelerant on himself at work, started smoking and drinking, and burnt to death in the other room. Horrible, horrible. Previous owner, Lillian, something woke her up in the morning, told her to get up, get in the tub, get dressed, and go downstairs and start digging. He woke up around noon. She's not in bed. He's thinking, well, she must have a doctor's appointment. He looks out the window and he sees their cars there. So he gets up, he looks through the whole house, and he sees her in the basement. He's like, what are you doing down here? And she literally looked at him and said, get the hell out of here. He's like, okay, okay. So he goes back upstairs, goes to work. About an hour later, she comes up and in her hand, she has a bone. And he's like, where did you get that? And she said, I dug it up downstairs in the kiln. A few days later, he was going to the hospital, Gardner Hospital, for a physical. He brought it with them, showed his doctor. They confirmed that it is a pelvic bone to a 16-year-old teenager. And then he brought it home. The next day, Gardner Police Department were at the door, the detectives, the cops, they were investigating. And yeah, they took the bone, so we don't have it. We found another one. Sorry. When we opened up in 2022, we had to close the basement down so they put the French drains in. And the people that were doing the French drains, I came to check on them. And he's like, Marion, come here. I got something for you. And I go over to the closet, and in the bucket is a bone. I'm like, what the frig? They found it over by the tunnel. I mailed it to Rob, the owner, and he has it. And the cops called me on my birthday last year. What's with this other bone? I'm like, oh, how'd you find out? He says, well, YouTube, you're telling the story. And I'm like, who knew cops watch YouTube? Who knew? So I said, I don't have it, which I don't. I sent it to Rob, and he has no idea where he put it. So 2 bones found.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Having lived here for little over 20 years, we'd heard rumors, we'd heard lots of things. And we knew the history, we knew some of the history, we didn't know a lot of it.
Oh man, I was hearing that people were getting chased out of here, that people were getting attacked.
I didn't even know that it was a haunted place until I was much older. We would drive by and I would always be like, oh man, that place looks really cool. I really would like to go in it someday, but it was abandoned when I was younger.
I believed in it from before. Once I started working here, then it just became more evident that it was real.
I am a believer in the paranormal. I regularly speak with my parents, who both have passed.
I was hearing that they are very picky of who they let come into the house. I've heard some people come in here and they walk around and it's fine and nothing happens. And I've heard other people come in and they get chased right out or something happens to them.
But I wouldn't say that I'm as into the paranormal as some of the other tour guides.
I was really excited to come in here because I have been in here before, not since it had been renovated.
There's been many times that I've been here where I can hear footsteps coming up the stairs. I've heard echo backs from voices to answering questions.
But I do enjoy the paranormal. I enjoy the interaction that I've had with the spirits here in the house.
I didn't know that things were going to happen right away when I came in, but I was ready for it. I wasn't afraid to be in here.
His first wife passed away in this room 2 weeks after the house was finished. This is the red room, as you can see. And then his second wife passed away in here in 1902. Yeah, both wives passed away, and it's kind of creepy. People do sleep in here. You know, things happen all the time. The door slams shut, the doorknob will shake. The fan that's right over here will turn on and off by itself. Something climbs into bed with you.
I had a tour of about 15 people. Did the typical normal introductions, and we saw the first floor and we went down to the basement and so forth. We walked up the stairs and we went into one of the bedrooms. I won't tell you which one unless you want to know. There was one couple towards the end of the line, and they entered the room and they walked halfway across the room, and as they got right to the center of the room, the husband of the couple went down. I mean, he was out cold before he hit the floor. He didn't wobble, he didn't shake, he didn't say, I don't feel well. He was just out. He went down in a heap, and the wife said, I just heard somebody say, we don't want him here. Somebody then said, call 911, which I did, and within minutes, the ambulance was here, the rescue squad was here. It took them 15 minutes to wake this guy up. She was shaken up more than he was, I think, because obviously his wife was shaken up because he had gone down. But more importantly, that voice that she heard whispered to her, "We don't want him here." Strangely enough, he continued the tour. When they decided to leave, they thanked me very much, and off they went. Left me a good tip too.
All right, so what bedroom was it?
It was the red room. It was the first bedroom on the right as you hit the stairs. Of course, we know that 3 women died in that room, both wives, and then a young lady of the evening met her demise in that room as well. So
You come in here, sometimes people have a hard time breathing. I was downstairs in the kitchen. I walked across the hallway and I could see the main staircase. And when I looked over to the main staircase, I literally saw, it was like a clear bubble. It floated by, it stopped, and it turned and looked at me, and it was a man's head. It was a floating head. And I'm like, what the frig is that? It was Mr. Pierce's face, and it literally shot off and went into the wall. And I got on the walkie-talkie and I called the people that were up here. I'm like, get your butts down here. I just saw something. And they get down there. I said, it went in there. And they go in there. They weren't even in there a second. And the head came out, looked at me again, and shot off and went into the wall where the ice chest is. I can still see it in my head. It's the creepiest thing ever.
I was on the 3rd floor, my tour was finished, and I had an older couple here, and they had missed the first part. And as I was talking to them right outside of the door here in the billiards room, there was a face looking back at me on the other side of the door, just out of where the people that I was talking to could see them. And it looked at me and then just looked away. And all it was just the floating head just looking back at me. That's my all-time favorite experience. I do believe that it was Mr. Pierce at an older stage of his life.
Not often do you see a floating head.
we were on the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is, we do it up sort of like a playground for the kids. There's a couple of blowing up balls and dolls and things up there and so forth. And talking with one of the couples that were there, and the ball was on the floor. And I kicked the ball. I gave it a good kick too, and it just rolled once and stopped. I rolled it, walked over and kicked it again, and it rolled once and it stopped. Well, the husband walked over, kicked it, and went across the room. So somebody was messing with me. Somebody was messing with me. They wanted me to know that they were there, and they just kept the ball from rolling across the floor.
The second time we were here with just myself and my oldest daughter, and we were sitting in the servants' quarter, and we had put a flat ball. We have a ball here that's very, doesn't have too much air, so it has a hard time rolling. Put it at the top of the staircase here on the 3rd floor, and there's 18 stairs. And when we were sitting, we just heard boom, 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 boom. And we were like, what the heck was that? And we get up and we look, and that ball that was sitting there for probably about a good minute went down the stairs, only hitting 7 on the way down. Yeah, I think that was a spook factor for my oldest.
I don't think I knew quite what I was getting into. And then the first day I actually worked here, I had the first tour opening night with another tour guide, and the house definitely showed me what it was capable of. And I knew right then and there that it wasn't going to be any joke. It was going to be something you had to be very, very careful with, which, you know, going into things that can be paranormal related, but I think until it happens to you on that level, it doesn't completely hit you. So me and the other tour guide, we were turning on the lights, and we normally start from the bottom floor up, and everything was fine. It felt a little weird, but it was mainly just that you're being watched feeling. And then we had gotten to the 3rd floor, and we got to room number 9, which is our billiards room. And we got to the closet. We opened the closet door, and something growled at us, and it was like a growl I have never heard before in my life. The only way I describe it to this day is it sounds like a demonic bear. That's the only way I can possibly describe it to somebody, that to kind of get a grasp of what that sound is. I had actually found out from one of the previous owners, they had done a tour here one day, and she had started talking about the growl, but she had heard it in our nanny's room. And I had asked her when she was done if it kind of sounds like this, and I explained it to her. She goes, yeah, that's the one. And I told her, I said, well, we heard it in the closet upstairs. She goes, I've never heard it up there. It's always been in the nanny's room or the nursery.
So the billiards room, I always get a really heavy feel here in this room. I've personally experienced walking in the door to feeling very sick, wanting to vomit, shaking, sweating. And the minute I leave, it goes away. I wholeheartedly believe that women were not welcome here in this room, and there was a lot of things that probably shouldn't have happened that happened here in this room under lock and key.
In the 14 years I've been here, I'm going to say 300 psychics have come through this house. And they're like, what the hell happened in this room? Then all of a sudden they're screaming, oh my God, somebody's being drugged into the closet. They call that the rape room. The closet is the rape room, where not so nice stuff happened to the servants in the house. A lot of psychics pick up on rape in there, murder. I'll say last summer I was up there with like 15 people for a tour, and a woman was standing outside the door, and she's like, I'm not going in that room. Okay, finished with the tour, and all of a sudden she starts screaming, oh my God, he's dragging her in by her feet, and he drug her into the closet while we were all doing. I didn't see it, but she saw it. Like, that's horrible. Hopefully we get women screaming in there all the time. Not humans, but dead.
The billiard room is very, very active. The closet in that billiard room happens to be the second portal in the house. First portal being at the base of the grand staircase in the hallway there.
Yes, I think the third floor is the most active in the billiards room. Yep, those 2 rooms upstairs.
The lady in white, her name is Bridget. Eric that used to work here, Eric Warren, he actually saw her up on the 3rd floor. And then I have a picture of her. I got her coming off the 2nd floor. And then we were downstairs just investigating. And I'm like, hey, I don't want to call you hey you or hey lady in white. Can you just possibly tell us your name? And she literally, over one of the pieces of equipment, she goes, I'm Bridget. Like, okay, so now we know her name is Bridget.
Well, I know for a fact that I've seen and experienced the lady in white. I've seen her floating up and down the 2nd or 3rd floor staircase.
The lady next door, actually, when we were putting the French drains in, she was taking pictures over there, and she got a picture of her downstairs in the basement.
So I came down one day after the tour. It was nighttime. Gathered up my things after I had shut all the lights off. I took a step towards the door. Now I'm as far away from the door as I am from you at that point. And I watched the door because I heard a rustling, and I watched and I saw the deadbolt move. The doorknob got twisted. I heard the click of the door open, and then the door swung open on its own. That's happened to me twice. It's happened to me twice here. And when I first told my fellow tour guides, they said, oh, we've done an investigation here, and we've had to close that door 3 or 4 times during the investigation. So it's not unusual. It's really not unusual.
I had a group in here. There was a grandmother and a grandson during the free time of their tour. They were in the basement. People like to shut the lights off during then. They were down there just recording with their phones in the dark. Everyone went and left. I went, locked up, walked around the house, and I noticed there was lights on in the basement. And I'm like, I shut off all the lights. Like, they didn't have lights on. So I walked around, but only a light was on in the room where we have our security cameras. I'm like, how is that possible? Everything's on one switch, right? It's one light on and off. So I walked around, I looked, no other lights were on in the basement from outside. So I told the group, I texted them, and I'm like, I have to go back in the house right now. Then I found out that there was one pull string in that room. Never knew for months and months. I never paid attention to it. And I come to find out, Marion had said, oh, the spirits sometimes have been playing with us and turning it on after. And I went in, I had to go back in all the way down in the basement, shut that one light off. But I thought it was interesting because no one had told me it had been happening. So
there was an instance where we were doing an investigation one day, and it was us tour guides that were working at the house, and we were upstairs in the servants' quarters, and they had me doing the Estes method or sensory deprivation, depending on what you call it. I had my arms like this, and I had my hands over my ears, just holding the headset, and I started getting this really bad burn on my arm, and it was enough to make me come to, which is really hard to do. And I tried brushing it off. I'm like, well, I'm sitting kind of weird. Maybe my arm's starting to hurt, fall asleep, whatever. And then eventually somebody came to get me because I had finished. And I told him, I said, my arm hurts really bad. And I described it. And it felt like somebody had a cigarette and they were just scraping my arm with the cigarette. And he was like, well, that's normally a scratch when you feel that. And I know I've been scratched prior to that, but I'm just trying to think of anything else it could have possibly been. And then we had gone into the next room, which was also room number 9, and it ended up getting worse. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to turn the lights on. It's starting to hurt me. And I had scratches all up the front of my arm and down my arm a little bit. And the weird thing about it was when those scratches healed, they actually healed as bruises in the shape of bite marks on my arm. Yeah.
I know that Mr. Pierce is here. Both of his wives are here. All 3 kids are here.
I really believe that Mr. Pierce is the most dominant, followed very closely by Eno Sari.
Eno Sari, he's here.
Eno Sari is probably a little bit more intelligent, but I do believe that SK kind of picks and chooses when the house is active and when it is not.
I think Mr. Pierce is one of the main spirits, definitely up on the 3rd floor. I definitely think Ellen is here, and I think Gordon and Rachel are here, the 2 children's spirits.
There's a little girl here, Rachel. That was Edward Pierce's daughter. She died when she was 2. There's about an 8 or 9-year-old boy, Gordon. He drowned in the pond over here. He's in here for some reason.
I've also felt and heard the presence of Rachel and Gordon, the 2 little children that dart from window to window.
So Rachel was 2 when she passed away in the house, and she was the daughter of Edward, the youngest son of Mr. Pierce. She had like a stomach bug when she passed away. And then Gordon, we don't know how he's related to the house, but we've had EVPs and things saying like, come play with me in the water. So we've been told he drowned in a nearby pond. And he's around 8 or 9.
There's definitely 2 little children. I've walked around the bottom floor, and you can hear them laughing, and you can hear them running up the stairs.
Those are the ones that I feel are around the most.
When they investigate, where should they spend the majority of their time? Certainly you want to spend some time down in the basement. It's a very active place. The red room is a very active room. And the billiard room on the 3rd floor.
The servants' quarter. A lot of spirits, I feel they congregate right in there.
Definitely to the basement.
I would definitely say the 3rd floor. Anywhere on the 3rd floor.
I think in the billiards room.
The other place that I would go is the dining room. Just sit around the table and just have that conversation at that table. Let them join you.
Absolutely the basement. I've seen people pass out down there for absolutely no reason. I've seen people get things thrown at them down there, and everybody just has something very different happen to them down there. So
I can't give you a specific because the whole house is haunted, but go to the 3rd floor.
It's a wonderful house. You got to come see it. It's a wonderful house.
Go on the SK Pierce Victorian Mansion website, and the owner, Rob Conti, will get your name and stuff and whatever, and get in contact with me, and we'll book it. Tours are all booked through him. Investigations are booked through me.